Right. So in the previous tutorial, we have added these additive animations, right? So when I'm jumping now and landing on the ground, actually the animations are smoothly blended, right? So that's the additive animation part. And now let's implement a new feature, which is animation montages. So animation montages is basically a way that we play a new animation on top of another animation without breaking the existing sequence, right? Sort of a overlay animation. Okay, so in order to implement these montages, first we need to set up some stuff at ABP locomotion based on the slot groups, right? So currently, actually, if you look at our animation slots, we have these sort of slots that has been already available, right? Actually, these slots comes with the animation that I've been provided. So the animations that I'm using are Lyra animations. So in Lyra animations, they have been specified these sort of animation groups, animation slots actually. So if I take a look at some of the sample animations, maybe let's take a look at unarmed idle ready. And inside, uh, yeah, actually there should be a window called animation slot manager. So I'll open that thing. So you can see, like, by default we have these groups as default animation slots, and we have one additive groups known as additive hit react, which is another slot that we can use to play sort of additive animations, right? But for the montage purposes, we can use either of these slots, right? Mainly, we need to use these upper body montage slots, like for example, playing some weapon firing animations or things like that. And sometimes we need to use full body animations, like some sort of interaction animations, or even some sort of a hit react, things like that. Actually, most of the time for the hit react, we can use this additive hit react, but if required, we can use the full body animations, right? And there is another one called upper body split. For example, like if we are aiming or if we are reloading our weapon or things like that, then we can use this upper body split to play that specific animation, right? So likewise, we cluster our skeleton areas based on these slot groups, and we are providing a specific animation montage to be played on that specific slot, so that only that specific area of the skeletons will be animated, where the rest of the skeleton will be played the animation provided by the existing locomotion state machine, right? That's the idea of animation montages. So to get started, maybe we can go ABP locomotion, and I will close the other tabs that we have been previously used, right? So in order to start animation montages, I think I'll make a space over here, and let's use this locomotion cache pause. And for the montage purposes, I will create another animation layer because it is operating separately uh, as a montage group, like we did in this additive stuff, right? So for additive animations, it is a separate anim graph that is operating separately. Likewise, we can use another anim layer for the animation montages, and I'll call it as montage slots, right? And I'll go back to the anim graph. Now I can drag and drop that animation slot. But here you can see, like, we don't have an input pin that has to be plugged into this specific anim layer. So first, let's go here and I'll add an input pause. So how to add the input pin? Right. So I found how we can add the input. So basically, you have to click on the animation layer, and there is a section called inputs. Right. Yeah. So we can use that section to add a new input pause, something like this. And as the name, maybe I'll keep the same name, right? If you need, you can change the input name pin, but it won't make any change, right? So I'll connect it to here, and let's go back, and now it exposed this pin for us. So I can connect it like this, and finally I'll promote this to a cache pause, and I'll call it as montage pause cache. Right. And for this section, I'll comment it as animation montages. Okay. And then instead of this locomotion pause cache, we can use that montage pause cache. Okay. Right. Okay. Now we can go to the montage slots anim layer and start implementing it. Right. So currently you can see it's simply taking the input and pass as the result output. But we need to implement certain stuff. So I'll break the link here and I'll promote this to a cache pause. I'll call it as input pause. Oh, sorry, input pause. Okay. So we don't need to drag these lines here and there. Instead of that, we can use this pin, right? Okay. So first, let's start with the upper body, lower body split montages. You can use this input pause, and then there is a node called layered blend per bone, right? So we can use this thing to determine what is the slot that we need to apply our animation montage blend, right? Okay. So as the config, I will use the blend mask, and here I can choose whatever the blend mask that I'm going to use. So again, this stuff will be provided by Lyra Animation. So if you use the Lyra Animations, this will be displayed automatically. Otherwise, if you're using a custom animation, sometimes you may need to make your own layered blend mask. But anyway, since we are going to use the Lyra Animations, we can use one of these masks. So as the first section, I'm going to focus on the lower body split mask. So let's use that thing. And I'll apply the rotation blend, and other stuffs I can keep as it is. Right. And then instead of directly plugging this stuff for the base pause, I will apply the additive animations on top of this split mask as well. So in case if we need to play sort of additive animations based on this specific slot, we can use that as well, right? And as the second pose of the additive, I will use the additive identity pose. And we need to use a specific slot, which is upper body additive, and I'll plug it to the additive layer. And for the alpha, actually, we can add an alpha dynamically as well. But for now, I'll keep it as 1, right? And then I can use this input pose, and we need the second slot that we are going to use. So as the second slot, I will use the upper body split, right? And that's the second blend pose. The blend weight, I will keep it as 1, so there will be a smooth blending in between these two animations in a same weight, right? And then finally I will filter these things based on full body additive pre-aim as well. So later on, actually, we are going to add sort of animation montages based on the weapon aiming, such as pistol aiming, rifle aiming, things like that. So in order to handle those stuff, we have to filter those animations based on this specific slot, right? So I will use full body additive pre-aim, right? And then we can promote this to a cache pose, and I'll call it as upper body, lower body, right? Okay, so I'll commit this thing as save input pose cache, and this section as save cache pose for upper body lower body split, right? And then we need to figure out this alpha dynamically instead of hard coding it as 1. So how we can do that? Well, I think at the blueprint thread safe update animation, we can add sort of thread safe function to resolve those blend weight data. Right, so I'll create a new function called update blend weight data, and let's make it as thread safe, otherwise we can't use it inside this thread safe update animation function. And I can put that in between this area right after the setting the character state data. So as I mentioned before, this order of execution of the functions matters because sometimes we use variable manipulations based on the frames, right? So if you missed this specific order, sometimes it may give some issues, right? So in order to not face such issues, make sure you keep the specific function at this exact same order like I follow, right? Okay, and as usual we need delta time as well, so I'll add a new pin called delta time, which is a float, and I can copy this thing to here. Okay, right, and I'll move this to blueprint thread save functions, and let's go inside that function and start to implement it. So first I need a variable called upper body dynamic additive weight to calculate and store those dynamic additive alpha values. So I'll make a variable called upper body dynamic additive weight. This is a float, and I think we can assign it to a new category called montages. Okay, right, so I'll get this thing, and now I can do some float interpolation based on the delta time to resolve this specific additive weight, right? So to do that, I can use finterp2, and as the current value I'll use this one, and with the time it should reach to 0, and as the delta time I can use this delta time that has been provided by this specific function, and as the interpolation speed I will use like 6, right? Okay, and then we need to actually do this sort of a float interpolation only if we are not in the ground, right? Otherwise we can use the alpha value as 1, because either way we are going to play it. Okay, so how to do that? Right, maybe we can use select float, right? And if I'm on the ground, I can keep the alpha value as 1. Otherwise I will do this float interpolation and I'll make it goes to 0 with the delta time, right? Plus if you are playing a specific animation montage already, then we don't need to actually blend it or interpolate it until to the 0, because otherwise before even the montage is finished to be played, basically it will be blend out and it will not be seen with the animation sequence, right? For example, let's say if you are currently playing a specific montage, like maybe like reloading weapon or things like that, and if you are on the ground, then this will, if you are not in the ground, let's say we are the jumping mode or something like that, then it will reach to 0 within few seconds before even finishing that reload animation montage, right? So in order to prevent that, actually we need to check whether we are already playing animation montage or not. So how can we do that? Right, so I think we can use property access here, and by default actually Unreal Engine provide this utility function called isAnimMontagePlay. So this function can be used to determine whether we are already playing any sort of animation montage or not, right? So if you are already playing animation montage, or not actually, if you are playing animation montage and we are remaining at the ground, then we keep the alpha value as 1 and we make it entirely be played, right? We don't blend it, or we don't reach it to the 0 alpha value, right? So it will be fully played basically. But in either way, if this condition is false, then it will go to 0 after some time, and the animation montage will be blend smoothly with the existing animation, right? Okay, and then we can go back to our implementation. So I think this function is okay for now. So we can go back to our anim graph, montage slots, and here as the alpha, now I can choose that specific variable. So there should be a variable called upper body dynamic additive weight, right? Okay, then the upper body dynamic additive weight alpha will be applied to here, and based on the conditions that I specified at that specific update blend data function, this blending will be happened and it will be applied to here, and then it will return the final upper body lower body split cache pause. Right. Okay, and as the next section we need to cover upper body pause cache, but I think since this part is quite long, I will continue in the next part at the second section of this montage, and I'll see you there. Thank you.